it is a lesson that can transcend any geography, any culture, any space and time. And the beauty is that seeing it and listening from here in Zambia, even though you're in New Zealand, it resonates with me. And the beauty about communicating is that if you're able to be authentic, that story can transcend space and time.
Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
Welcome to Shameless Podcast. Today we've got our first person out of New Zealand, and I think he's carrying it with a lot of pride. And I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. My name is Dzikamai Gangaidzo. I'm the host of Shameless Podcast. On Shameless, we actually look to strive to have conversations that look to catalyze transformation leaders, to look to gain a sustainable change. And it's a testament to the Ubuntu principle, where I am because we are. And within this community, we hope to share stories of courage, resilience, breakthroughs. We want to celebrate and also cry if need be. But more so than anything, it's a journey that we are all engulfed in an attempt to grow, support, and succeed more so than anything else. And today we're going to be joined by Callum Armstrong. Absolutely fantastic to have you on, Callum.
Thank you so much for having me here, Dzikamai. It's really awesome. It's my first podcast with someone in Africa, so it's a pleasure.
Absolutely brilliant. And so maybe a bit about Callum. Callum is a marketing coach and a social entrepreneur from New Zealand. He got into the business with a dream to help restore the environment, which he does through the charity called the Reforestation Fund. He also helps businesses to get more customers through marketing by providing coaching and helping them build winning teams. Callum, thank you for having us. And you know, that's a little bit of a synopsis about you, but I am absolutely curious to really get the words out of your mouth. Who are you? What are you? What are you about?
Oh, that's a big question. And I think it depends on in what context you show up, who you are, right? Like, at work, I am a marketing coach, yes. I help businesses to grow, to succeed. I help environmental group to do better. But in my heart, I am all about helping the environment. Now, I'm not sure what it's like in other parts of the world, but here in New Zealand, the environment is typically supported by volunteers, people in the community that give their time and give their resources, and they're all struggling to get 2 cents together to do anything, right? And if you look at people that are employed in environmental work, like my partner who works with endangered species and people that work for our government conservation department, there's very much a shortage of money and resources. And so in looking at how do I help the environment, I didn't want to take from that same pot of funding. I wanted to bring new sources of resource to the table to help bring back our native forests and to support our endangered species and our biodiversity. So really, like the reason why I live at this intersection of business and conservation is that because I don't think business is doing enough. And I think that if we set up business in the right way, we can do good. So that started maybe 6 years ago when I discovered this plant called manuka here in New Zealand. It's one of the first plants that grows on like deforested land, and it brings native forest back and prevents erosion and cleans the waterways, all this great stuff. And so I made this range of skincare and personal care and beard oils and all these products with manuka.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to stop you there.
I didn't tell you about that, but
You got into skincare.
yeah.
You're going to have to elaborate on that. So
Okay.
How? You just stumbled across a tree and then you decided this is what we're going to do now?
Yeah, I found a whole lot of scientific papers on it, and then I started reading about the indigenous knowledge here, the Mataronga, and how it was, all the different uses back in the day, and I kind of put 2 and 2 together and found that there was all these other native plants that had value and uses, and that they weren't, there wasn't much demand for them in the market. And I'm really skipping over 6 years and in a short session here, but basically, first I started off and I said, this oil that comes from the leaves of this plant, it has these crazy benefits. And I was selling it at local markets. And I said, this has like 100 different uses. And everyone thought I was lying to them. They were like, you're a snake oil salesman. I was like, no, this is really good. And they said, we just want one use for it. And so I made this beard oil. It took me over 70 different tests and iterations and formulas over 12 months before I sold it. And then I made a range of skin oils, like 6 different products for women, like dry, oily, normal, combination, acne prone and mature skin. Made a shave oil, some beard and shave bars. Then made another brand. We were selling like essential oils for aromatherapy from native plants. The irony is that I'm not really a skincare person and I don't buy that much stuff. So like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but the goal was always to bring back native forest. And I thought, look, if we made it more profitable for farmers and landowners to plant native forest on their land than any other type of farming, in our lifetimes we might see more native forest get planted. That was kind of the goal. And these things evolve. You go from one thing to the next. You try something. Some things work, some things don't. You learn, you improve. And but I sold that business last year.
Oh, wow.
I decided that wasn't. I think there's a big topic here, which is knowing where you should show up in the world.
Yeah.
And I found that, yes, I could make a successful skincare business, but is that where I should be showing up? Maybe not. Is that where I have the most leverage to make change in the world and to support the communities that I care about? Maybe not. Probably not. So I kind of refined down to coaching and using content to, videos to share the stories of people helping the environment, because then we can get more awareness, and you need awareness before you can take action.
Before we get to the awareness, before you can take action, I am curious around how difficult was it for you to actually stop something that you had been so heavily invested in and you've spent so much time. And I ask this question not only from the perspective of you, this is your idea, this is something that you've built over so many years, but even more so, I find that a lot of people invest so much time within a career, within a business, but then at some point you either lose yourself or you just become a wheel living for the next day and not necessarily driving towards a purpose. And I feel like what you've talked about is at some moment you decided, I've got a calling and this is my calling where I can get to my result or the end goal. Now, how difficult was that realization? How did that moment come about? Was it like a premonition and a dream, or did you really grind it out? How did that work?
That's a really good question. So there's a few different angles for this. One is just understanding where I should best show up. Look, it was my baby. It was my identity. I remember I was obsessed with this business. I was working 16-hour days for years at one point, But I think when the COVID lockdowns hit, our business went to zero. Like we were considered non-essential and there was very strict lockdowns. So that business kind of stopped. And in that time of the lockdowns, I got all these really big contracts for my marketing agency. And I sort of started that. And then after those lockdowns, the person that was making our soaps, we partnered up and we opened up a retail shop at a different company. And that went really successful. And we ended up selling all these crystals and all this random stuff. And in between those things, I didn't really have time for the for Manuka Essentials, the skincare business. And then we started this charity, the Reforestation Fund. So I just started way too many things, and it was just too much to deal with. And, with say the marketing agency, I had a team all around the world, and yes, it was a lot of work, but it could be done from anywhere. Whereas, I was getting orders and I was shipping them out of my garage, and I was making products and like at home or wherever I could find it. And it was just the amount of effort that went into it was a bit too much for the joy I was getting from it. But I think, like I said, at a deeper level, I really asked, is this my identity? Is this what I want to show up in the world and do? And I see people on Instagram that are so passionate about skincare and beauty. And I used to sell to hairdressers and barbers and people in the beauty industry. And I saw how much they loved like the way you look and you appear and the way your skin and your hair feels and the health of it. And I really respect and admire that, but it's just not my place. And it's pretty scary to admit that. Like, it definitely is. But I think it's just being honest with yourself. Like, you can live in the shadow of your previous self, or you can change and rip the Band-Aid off, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time what I've felt is, and I'll talk for myself or about myself, any big change that I've had to make has always been, I've had to know why I'm making the change.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most important thing. For me to make a decision, it has to be very clear that I'm making this decision, whether or not it is more profitable or what, but at the end of the day, it has to be very clear. I'm making this decision because of X, and I need to be able to live with whatever outcome that then comes from that. And when I hear you talk about, can I make a bigger impact? Is it more fulfilling? Does it carry more weight? When you look at barbers and different people with a level of passion that you don't necessarily have, you start to ask yourself those real questions. And I think knowing where you want to be can really help you define that decision-making process and being true to that. And it's a scary thought, scary process, unknown. That is the journey, right?
Yeah. It's yeah, and I think there's no one right or wrong way, but growing up, I always thought I can do anything, right? When I was 15 years old, I read this book, Secret. It was like, law of attraction, you can make anything happen in your life. And I've always believed that. So that in my mind, I equated with, I can do anything, therefore I'll do everything. And until you actually go deep down that rabbit hole, you realize that you can do everything, but your well-being and your relationships are not going to do well if you try and do everything. There was also a point where I thought, well, hey, I've got this beautiful woman I want to be spending more time with. There's this amazing world I want to explore. And because I'm so focused on all these businesses, I'm not giving enough time to my charitable stuff. And I don't have the space to actually really explore ideas and go on a hunch because I'm so busy, doing 3 businesses. And so I thought, well, look, I'd rather just do less, do it better, be happier doing it. And, the thing is, like, if you scroll on one of the social media platforms, you'll see everyone's got the next biggest thing. You see all these ads come at you saying, no, you can make it successful. You can do this consulting thing, or you can run Facebook ads. It will be successful. What they don't tell you is that there's a certain amount of time that you've got to put in consistent action and effort without going to the next shiny object. Yeah. And there's a point where I thought, well, hey, how much time and effort do I want to do this if it's not bringing me joy? And it wasn't bringing me joy, and I was, in that burnt out state. So I thought, well, no, I'd rather find things that, one, I'm good at and 2, I like, because then I'm going to do it for 5, 10, 20 years. And that's where you get the real societal change. It's not from some big stunt today,
Obviously, what we seeing on social media and the different ads is marketing, really. And that's where you've currently found a home. Can you maybe elaborate about what sort of marketing you do and why is it important? I mean, you highlighted awareness is the first step towards action. Why is that important to you? And how does that bring change across the world?
Yes. I think, like, marketing at the end of the day is the transfer of information, right? Before we had all this technology, we transferred information through talking or through a newspaper or through, if you go back thousands of years, writing on a cave wall. And it's just that it's done with more technology today. And if you look at any purchasing decision, there's a range of stages we go through. We go from being unaware that we have a problem to aware that we have a problem. Then we think, okay, there's a solution. We look out for solutions and we become ready to buy something. And there's information at each stage that we need to go through to move to solving our problems. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's what marketing is. And so, if you look at these days, engagement and people's attention and time is, I'd argue, one of the most valuable resources on this earth. Like, we only get 24 hours in a day. And so how you capture that attention and how you turn that into action for good or for profit is arguably one of the most important things, or one of the most valuable resources to garner, which is what we do as marketers. But how we do it's a bit different in that I see people saying, run these ads or do this outreach or go and make a podcast or whatever. And there's all these different solutions and all these...
Ouch. Is that a shot at me, Callum? Are you trying to shoot?
No. Sorry. Okay, I'll take our podcast. I'll insert email 100 people, right? Because that's what I'm doing. But no. Podcasting is amazing. Actually, just as a side note on that, I've done lots of different marketing activities, and podcasting has to be the most fun way of getting your name.
Yeah,
because you need good people like yourself. But the point I'm making is that there's all these people saying, hey, try this, try that, do this shiny object. But we don't often have the conversation about what foundations do you have in place. Who are you serving? What are their pain points? Yes, you're selling some kind of product or service, but how does that make them feel when they've got a problem? How does it make them feel when they've got the solution? What's unlocked because of that solution? And then reflecting that on your website and having a way to capture people's emails that aren't, and nurture them and warm them up that aren't ready to buy yet. And that's where I see so much missing in the marketing world, is that we're all about getting people to see what we're doing and selling it. But quite often people land on a salesperson that just doesn't hit the mark and that doesn't empathize with people. So we kind of come in and start on that stage one journey, like get really awesome foundations that make you a no-brainer and then go to the next thing. So that's at a really high level what we do. But
When we talk about capturing attention, which platforms or which methods or which avenues have you felt you are most comfortable with? Number one, but also in your view, what resonates with you in order to be able to get that really personal feel?
Yeah, good question. So my expertise is in content marketing, so educating people and providing value. I think I just like businesses that will share solutions to people's problems before they sell to them. Where nobody really likes being sold to, right? So if you can educate people and you can solve their problems and get them results in advance before they talk to you. As far as platforms go, I've typically focused on blogging and writing blogs because various reasons, where my skill set is, but to be honest, where I spend my time is on YouTube. I watch YouTube videos all the time. I way too much YouTube, actually. I probably need to do less videos, but I like that because it's intimate. You get to know people. You can listen to podcasts on YouTube. You can, if you've got a short attention span or you've just got a bit of time, you can scroll the shorts. And as you like different things, you kind of get it. It shows you what you want to see. But the reason why we've mostly focused on blogging is because that helps to show up on search engines like Google. And so instead of, when I'm on YouTube, I'm just scrolling, I find something interesting and watch it, and I build a relationship with the channel or the business. But, when you search for something on Google, you've got a reason why you're there. So you might actually have a problem. And when you see what they show up for, the problem they've got. And then you can really educate them to solve that. And at the end say, hey, by the way, if you need some help, let's chat. So it's just a really authentic, genuine way of helping.
It's actually very interesting because that approach of blogging is somebody's coming to you because they have a problem. You're not spamming somebody in order to create a problem for them or to just really throwing 1,000 lines in an attempt to hopefully catch somebody. And so I understand what you mean when you say it's really intimate. And the thing that I absolutely love about what you're putting forward is that these tools, these skills, these opportunities exist anywhere in the world. You don't need to be in New Zealand. You talked about you can be anywhere doing the same work. And so for me, it's one of those things that resonate across geography, really. And maybe there might be cultural nuances, but at the end of the day, as well, it can transcend culture. But the key that you've highlighted, to me at least, is have a very clear strategy and a very clear intent. That's one way of capturing somebody's heart.
Exactly. I think.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think also an important point here is that when we have a screen or a computer or a phone in front of us, you need to forget that there's a human on the other end that has problems and solutions and a personality and a life. And it's easy
Mm.
to just talk about buy this thing, buy that thing. And so when I'm coaching writers, I always come back to, let's say, what's the context? Is this casual? Are you at a party and you're talking to them? Are you in a cafe or a restaurant? Are you in a boardroom? And
Okay.
how are you talking to them? Like, if this is the first time meeting that person, are you going to try and sell to them, or are you going to say, "Hi, my name's Callum, and how can I help?"
And it takes away the computer part of it. It's about giving yourself a different context.
Exactly. And so it's not all about being this fancy, technological thing. I mean, there's a lot of good technology out there, but one thing probably the most common bit of feedback I give, that if anyone listening to this is thinking about marketing, is I'd say, try and just close your eyes and visualize in whatever communication you're doing, what's the context, who you're talking to, where in their buying stage are you, like what kind of relationship are they coming to you with, like what do you have with them, and then just treat it as if you would treat someone in person. Yeah, there's a time to sell and there's a time to serve, and what time are you at, and just authentically reflect that. People respect that so much more than buy my thing right now, I need it, you've got 48 hours before this disappears, right?
Yeah. And the thing about marketing, like you talked about, it's largely about communication. Communication serves us in multiple different facets, and marketing is one of them. In any business, any forum, any space, any community, your ability to communicate is incredibly important. And that's where that part where empathy falls in play. And what you're saying is, if I'm able to visualize myself in a space, in a room, what would the other person be also thinking and feeling? And if I can manage to provide that human touch, that empathy towards the experience that we're about to have, surely I'm going to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Callum, you've moved from healthcare products, skin products, beard oil or skin oil, but at the end of the day, you've now ended up within a marketing space, or content creation space. What have you felt in terms of your relationship with failure, or any experiences that you've had through your journey that you go, damn, this is a kick in the teeth and very humbling? And what tools have you probably used in order to be able to overcome some of that?
Gee, where do I So I fail on a daily basis. So probably 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20 things I try fail, and it's just that one little thing that works, that picks you back up and takes you through. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, she got so many publishers said this is a stupid idea. Why would people want to read about magic and wizards? And then Thomas Edison with a light bulb. How many investors said who would want a light bulb? I think it was, don't quote me on this, but it was like over 100 or something like that. Crazy.
Yeah.
And so you just gotta accept that, like, things aren't gonna work, right? But if you keep trying, things will work. An example would be, I had in this charity, the Reforestation Fund, we spent 4 years developing and making it perfect, making it like the dream charity, and then we put it out there and people didn't want it, so we changed. In the end, people didn't want that, we changed. With Manuka Essentials, I put out beard oil. I put out Manuka oil, and people said, you're lying to me, so I changed it. I put out some other product, it didn't work, so I changed it. I put out beard oil, that worked, great. But then the next product didn't work, so we changed it. We tried different businesses to deal with, they didn't work, we changed our audience. We tried different audiences, we tried different prices, we tried 100 million things, right? And I think most successes you see out there, you see the highlight reel, you see the one or two things that succeeded, but you don't see all those things that didn't work. People don't like to talk about that, and I appreciate that you're talking about this on your podcast, right? But like, if you want to get to that success, you've just got to keep picking yourself back up, and a community and relationships are such an important part of that, because we're all our own biggest enemies, right? And so sometimes you can be really hard on yourself, and it's helpful just to have someone who knows you and cares about you to say, hey, like, you're doing well, keep going, you've got this, right?
Yeah, and I absolutely love what you're saying, because at the end of the day, it is difficult to fail, but it's even harder to stand up and try again. But the biggest disservice you could do to yourself is actually not trying to start with. And if you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to try. And so I absolutely love the idea that you tried Manuka oil in a different form and people didn't like it, but you said, you know what, I'm going to try this again. Until you got to somewhere where somebody actually resonated with what you saw. And for me, the fact that you had community around you, people to support you, those were the tools that you essentially leveraged to get yourself through the most darkest periods. And a lot of people, when they get kicked in the teeth, that part of standing up is the hardest thing. And if you don't have the right tools, the right support, it becomes even harder to be able to get up from that place.
I've had a lot of mentors and coaches and that have helped me to see that. And there's part of the reason why I became a coach is to help people pick themselves up and to get that success. But one thing that really surprised me, and this is going to sound silly, probably just even talking about it, but there's this businessman who I grew up with, and he's in a lot of successful companies. And I remember maybe 4 or 5 months ago, he posted on LinkedIn saying, we tried this business and it failed. And, we tried all these different iterations, we tried all these different tactics and it failed. So we shut it down. And I was like, wow, that takes so much bravery to actually say that and admit that. Like, I don't really talk about my failures that much because I'm embarrassed by them. The fact that you can say that publicly is amazing. And I'm not saying everyone should do that, but like, sometimes when I'm thinking, I just wish this would work faster and easier and better, I look at these one-hit wonders like Justin Bieber publishes a song on YouTube and then he's this global success, right? And it's easy to think, I wish it was like that, but you don't really see the downside of quick success. And sometimes embracing those failures actually sets you up for longer-term resilience and longer-term success that's more fulfilling. And, the quick sugar hit of winning straight away isn't always what it's cracked out to be.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually think that a lot of the time we don't see the failures and in the end we assume that it was a quick win. You can watch somebody and you go, wow, this person is just blown up. But the reality is that you don't know that they did 75 different iterations of Manuka beard oil in order to get to the point where they're actually selling it, right? And that's the sad part about anybody's success, really, is that you can never appreciate that journey that they traveled in order to be successful. And so for me, I find that incredibly amazing. And I know what I want to ask you is for a quote, but I also have a quote. So I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to say my quote right after you.
Okay, cool. So wisdom in words. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And that's by Henry Ford, the guy who made Ford cars.
Why I love that quote in particular is the fear to do something different is the path for success. I mean, overcoming that fear is the path to success. You can never get a different result if you don't try something different. And I think too often we get stuck in our ways, afraid to change, and that's the beauty. And so my quote is, success is not failure. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. So
I like that.
And at the end of the day, when you fail, it is not the end of the world. And having the courage to continue is probably the hardest thing, but it's the thing that matters the most. And when I listen to your story, Callum, all the way from selling beard oil out of your garage, or from trying multiple iterations of Manuka oil as you're probably walking down the road going, that branch over there looked like it is the thing that people have been looking for. The beauty about your story for me is that you were able to find not only a process that allows for you to be able to face fear, face failure, but also find ways to then have multiple iterations towards success. It's not about being right, but it's about getting it right. And in order to do that, you have to go through multiple steps, and you need to be able to be confident that even though you might fail, the answer is just around the corner. And the thing for me, when you got to the point where you're deciding, is this what I continue with? You had a very clear goal, and you then evolved from that point, sold your business, and then followed your passion. And awareness in marketing, communication is probably the most fundamental thing towards making action, to making change in the world. And as I hear about your journey as you go forward, marketing within content creation, I really take pride in this conversation. I really take comfort in this conversation, because the authenticity about how you approach your work, what you're trying to achieve, is no more evident by the fact that you sold something that you've been building for 6 years, and you then pivoted to something that really resonates with you in a way that resonates with what you're trying to achieve. I listen to that, and it not only brings me a level of knowledge, knowing that I should find my goal, my future, what drives me, my why. And that is the center of what is going to guide any decisions that I probably have to make. And if I'm able to make those decisions with the right why, then things make a lot more sense.
The beautiful words, and I'd just like to add to that. You look at other people's lives and experiences, and you don't see the emotional struggles they go through. You don't see all the challenges. You don't see all the self-doubt. You don't see all the mental pain. You might think, oh, that person's done well. And I do this all the time. I say, oh, why did that person succeed so well? It might have been 30 years of effort. But you don't see on a day-to-day basis all the questions they ask themselves, all the fear, all these things, and it's normal. I think it's important to let yourself feel the emotions and let yourself say, well, hey, because if it's not if this isn't your true purpose, if this isn't where you want to be in life, then you're going to give up. Probably, right? Maybe I gave up. I'm going to do Go Essentials, right? But if it's, it's kind of like sharpens your sword. Embracing those emotions and just letting yourself be okay with not feeling perfectly great about every moment. It also actually gives you the opportunity to say, hey, what actually matters to me? What am I willing to suffer for to get to the success and get to the outcome?
At the end of the day, we are here all striving towards getting to some goal. And if we don't have meaning in what we're doing, then what are we really doing? Callum, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Shameless. And I'm wishing you all the best and the success within the marketing space and the content creation. And we'll be looking out for all the crazy and fun adventures that you're going to get up to. Hopefully this is... well, we never know. You might pivot into something greater than what you're currently doing now, and you might find a new rebirth in another space. But regardless of what your journey has, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Shameless, and it's been amazing having you share your experiences all the way from New Zealand. And like I said, all those points that you've raised, anybody can pick and learn and drive from that point. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we embark on our mission to impact 1 million African lives by 2026.